Welcome back to Ethereal Material, where the mystical meets the practical.
We are Carla and Priscilla, two professional mediums discussing the gap between the seen and the unseen.
And all topics are on the table for our dissection. And today we're talking about dreams.
Dreams,
Dreams.
all of the types of dreams, or at least
Well, dreams
a bunch of
all
them.
the time.
Yeah.
Um,
Would you like to start? Or not?
I'd actually like to start with, because we were just talking about this with like nightmares.
Okay.
What do you think is the function of a bad dream? Do you think it has a function or it's a omen?
I would argue that omen and bad dream might be two different things.
Okay, would you think if you woke up from a bad dream, is your go-to response like, oh, that's my psyche just taking out the trash, or oh, something bad's gonna happen?
I think for me, for me, obviously not the average person, I would think my first go-to is always my psyche dumping stuff.
Yeah.
I'm very practical in that sense. But if it was traumatic and a fear-based thing, I, like everybody else, probably would get nervous, but I don't have a history
Yeah.
of dream. I don't dream a lot anyway. In fact, I
don't
had a bunch of
my dreams either.
I know. I had a bunch of dreams. I think it was last week, like 3 mornings in a row. So I don't even remember what they were now. But I woke up as like I got like a regular person. Why am I having all these dreams? What's going on?
What did I eat yesterday? What did I drink?
Like, why is this happening? What's going on? And they're always in the morning hours where I know my brain is dumping. But I think for some people, they absolutely have prophetic dreams that can be on the nightmare side, and they're clicking into some timeline. I do think that, and I also think it's psyche dumping. So I got to go with both.
Have you ever had a bad or scary dream that was prophetic?
I used to have when I was young, like middle school, high school, plane crash dreams. But in like, even with bringing through spirit people, there's no emotion for me with
Yeah.
it. I would dream there was a plane crash. I would wake up and say, there's going to be a plane crash. And it would happen all the time. I mean, maybe 6, 7, 8 times no, maybe not 8, like 6 or 7 times in my life, starting at a young age. It was kind of like funny. I would write down, like, I'd be like in 8th grade, plane crash, and I'd see if there was going to be a plane crash, and there always was. But I had no emotion to it. And I used to wonder, why am I getting these dreams? So that I used to get. Did you?
As I think about it now, when I was much younger, so middle school and younger, I had this like snippet of a dream, like running down the street with my family, not my family as I had it, but I knew I was with my family, and running away from our house that was on fire. And, far enough away, but knowing it's burning down behind us and running hard to get away from it. But like just that. And I had that a number of times. And on reflection now as an adult, it may have been some past life information that came through. My parents were very real gatekeepers around the TV, so we were not TV watchers. This wasn't, um, I think some part of a movie that was recurring for me in a dream state, and it was scary. But like you, it was also I had a neutral feel, like here we go, just running down the street again,
But your house never burnt down, right?
No,
Was there
my house
ever a
never burned
fire?
down. No, but I had one of those. No, but I remember briefly as a young person having an irrational fear that the house would burn down. And this is how young I was. We got aluminum siding, and I remember going, oh, phew, the house will never burn down now because it's metal, which of course wouldn't do anything. But that, it was so long ago now that, and I don't remember it terrifying me. So, but I'm not a person that has nightmares or dreams that I tend to remember anyway. I have like stress related dreams, like I'm late to class.
Right.
I have dreams that cause me to wake up with feelings of anxiety or panic, like all my teeth are falling out, because that's another stress dream, right? When you wake up and all your teeth are falling into your hand. Have you ever had one of those?
No.
Oh, it's awful.
That's a thing?
Oh, it's awful.
Like, is that a thing though? Like you're
It
saying
is.
a stress relief dream.
It is. Oh, without a doubt.
Falling out dream ever.
The feeling for me is like first they were getting all loose and I can feel my teeth
my
like I have
God,
now I have a mouthful of like gravel and then spitting it out. but
Oh.
they're pretty classic, stress, or like being late for class. Those are pretty
Those are
classic
the sign. That's what
stress
I call like the
dreams.
psychological dump. Like as if a pot is always call it the boiling pot. Is you
Yeah.
gotta take the lid off to let the steam out,
Right,
and then
right.
your brain dumps it.
And if you're
I
under a lot of stress
that will. I
and
mean,
you
yeah, I
feel
have
like you've
stress.
got a deadline and you're under stress, you might have one of those, I can't find my class or I missed the
Yeah, I
exam
do
sort of
have
dream.
those. That's
Yeah.
my psyche. So you've got the prophetic dreams where some are actually prophetic and some simply aren't, right? And then there's the famous visitation dreams, right? Where you get a visitation from a pet or a loved one
Mhm.
on the other side. And I think some of those are also your psyche bringing back your
Yeah.
people. And I think some of them are absolutely real.
I have not had one of those in a sleeping dream. I have had them in just awareness around my house. Maybe that's because of what I do for a living. I'll be suddenly aware that my beloved German Shepherd is in the next room.
Oh, yeah, right.
My
So
German Shepherd has passed away.
that's your daytime life.
That
Yeah.
they, sort of a very, I tend to be in a really relaxed state of mind during the day. Often those things will kind of break through. But this is a very fluid state of mind for me
I
anyway,
was
because
gonna
of
say.
what we do for a living.
I wonder if we don't dream, because I don't, my clients will come to me with stories that their dead loved ones sat on their bed and said, I'm
Yeah.
passing tonight.
Right.
I love you.
Yeah.
It's never happened to me. But I'm wondering if we get it in so many other
Yeah.
ways
Yeah.
that's why I did have two experiences. And it's funny because both of these people that passed, that came to me in a full dream state, I had no a connection to, but no emotional connection to.
Hmm.
So one was a boyfriend slash husband of a niece. And
Okay.
he came to me and told me some information, and I was like, wow, which ultimately was validated later. And then I can't remember if it was he or this other gentleman where actually was in bed, pulled halfway out of my body, could see my husband, and then spoke to the spirit person. It's the only time in my whole life this has
Wow.
ever happened. And I looked down and there was my body. And then the spirit person came in and told me about, and it was my friend's dad.
Mhm.
I just, again, can't remember which gentleman this was that I came out of the body. It was the same house. We only lived there 2 years. So it was the same room.
Yeah.
So he told me information and later found out that a very well-known medium that, I mean, like the most famous medium at the time years
Mhm.
ago had told them the same thing and was shocking information that they didn't know.
Oh,
So
cool.
I don't, yeah, cool, except it was not great
Mm.
information that, you want to keep
Yeah.
that quiet. But it was just
In a theoretical.
well, in theory, it was very cool. And I don't know how they were okay with it, whatever. But that was kind of validated for me. But I did have, I probably told you this, I had a dream about my father who died over 40 years ago. And it was weird because it was precognitive. So it wasn't a visitation, but he was there. You're gonna laugh. You'll remember this. He had a top hat on, boxer shorts, and a fur coat. And my father was like a scientist businessman. This is
All
not
right,
his garb.
Dad.
I
Yeah,
don't know
right.
what the hell this was.
I love it.
And I'm like, why are you dressed like this? And then he went into the bathroom to take a bath. Also, nothing that would ever happen in my real life. The doorbell rang to this residence I didn't know. It was like an apartment. And I opened it, and all his friends were there. Most were dead, one or two were still alive. And they told me they had to speak to him right away. I said, he's in the tub and he's wearing this weird outfit. And I like, get him. I said, tell me. And they wouldn't tell me what it was. They said, we have information about a friend or whatever. I can't remember.
Hmm.
We need to speak to him. And all of the friends came from a certain organization my father was involved in. So I said to everybody when I woke up, my husband, I said, somebody in that crowd has passed away.
Mhm.
And they came, and sure enough, within probably 24 to 48 hours, I got wind that one of the, not in the crowd there, but
Yeah.
one of the crowd, and he had already passed by the time that I got
Yeah.
this information. They were coming to tell my father that, but it was very dream. I remember
Yeah.
it so clearly, and this is, 20 years ago, maybe 18,
Mm.
but I remember it. And remembering it like that is also a sign. So you would have thought it was
Yeah, I
ridiculous
think
until
it's
it came
that.
true.
I think there's a certain quality of a dream, whether it's a visitation,
Yeah, quality.
that that feels different. Those are the only aspects of dreams that I really remember. Because I know that there is information in there for me. I may still I know if I wake up panicking or really upset or something or anxious or stressed or overwhelmed than it's my brain
Yeah.
dumping. But if I come away with specific elements of a dream that just stay with me, and it's rare enough that I feel like, okay, this is something that has some meaning for me, whether it's, predictive of some sort or something I need to look at. But I think I get more of my information during the day, and
Yeah, me
maybe
too.
people don't know
Mhm.
that, your psyche, your unconscious mind, your intuition, your spirit, whatever, your guides, whatever you want to call it, are always communicating with you.
Mhm.
And you don't have to be in delta sleep or REM sleep to get it. You can simply pose questions to yourself or have an open question in your mind, like, what am I going to do about X? And, sort of have that in your mind, in the back of your mind, every once in a while, throw it out to yourself, in the quiet of your mind. What am I going to do about X? And when you're in the shower or washing the dishes or mowing the lawn or driving to pick up your kids, and then you're like, and you get sort of an answer or an aha moment. It might not be the complete answer, but you have, um, you can be an active participant in that is what I want to say, as opposed to just waiting and hoping that a dream will give you some information.
And you can actually pose the question at night before you sleep.
Definitely.
And if you're not the type like we aren't to get them in a dream, do it during the day.
Yeah.
I really believe we don't get this because we do this every single day for people. And
Yeah.
that's how we get it. Because for my clients to say, I don't get anything, I don't get any information, but I dream, and then they're telling me these, they could write a whole book
Yeah.
on their dreams. I'm like, yeah, I don't have that at all.
The things that I've had there have been two prophetic dreams that stand out for me in my whole life too. One was back in the 80s, or no, maybe even the 70s, mid to late 70s. I kind of was like making my breakfast in the morning before going to school, just cereal, whatever. And just like aware, like a download that a bridge had fallen into a river and cars were going into it. And it was like, I wouldn't call it a vision because I was awake and I wasn't looking for it. It just was like, I know this happened, or I know this
Mhm.
is happening. And the next day, in the very early morning hours, the Mianus River Bridge fell and a couple of cars went into the river. And I remember that it was such a neutral experience, and left me such an odd feeling. I questioned a little bit, oh, should I have done something about it? But I knew it was so different to my regular experience that I didn't carry any guilt or anything about that. And I know some people do. Like, if I get this message, what am I, do I need to tell someone they're going to die, or do I need to tell someone that they're going to be in a car accident? So that's a whole nother topic. But the second prophetic dream I had wasn't that long ago. It was maybe 6 or 7 years ago. I was putting my dog into the car in my driveway, and I shut the door and I turned around to go into the driver's seat. And I had this impression, again, like a download, like this movie that just flashed in my mind, of my dog being hit by a car at the bottom of my driveway and somersaulting into the woods. So, for the rest of that dog's life, which was another couple of years, he was always on a leash coming out. And that never happened with him. But then I got my second German Shepherd, the one I have now. And when he was about a year old, about 3 years ago, he ran away, getting into the car, ran down to the driveway, and I just saw it, like what I had seen superimposed on what was happening, like hit by the car, somersaulting into. He was fine, thankfully. But I thought, oh, that's what that was for. So you don't even know. I mean, that was years before it happened. And the Mianus River Bridge one was the day before it happened. So because there's no time there, I think we can really make ourselves a little nutty sometimes.
Yeah, you can't fall down the rabbit hole on
Yeah.
that. But you were awake for both of those.
I was
Those are
awake for
not
both of
dreams.
those. Right.
So yeah, and again, I think that's because you do it all the time.
Mhm.
That's why you're getting it. What are your thoughts on reoccurring dreams?
I think if they're not of the typical, teeth falling out late for class kind of a thing, that they're probably past life information. That's kind of my
That's a good
sense
point.
about it. Especially if, when I have had like that running down the street from the fire, I feel such an integral part of it. I really feel like I'm having the experience. I'm not dreaming about a family running down the street away from a fire.
Right, you're in
Like I
it.
can look to my left and see my father running next to me, who wasn't my father, in real life. So my sense is it's and they tend to go away. Any
Yes.
recurring dreams I've had I don't have them anymore. And I think like with children who are very,
Mm,
very sometimes really fluent when they talk about past lives, I think
yeah.
that's probably something like that. What about you? What do you think
I
about?
think if they're not your normal going through stress and you're late for the same train or
Right, yeah,
plane or that same thing, because again, I will go practical first. I think you're probably tapping into some other lifetime, and some
yeah,
of it can be predictive, but again, you have to feel completely neutral and not
yeah,
be in fear.
right.
If you're in fear, I don't feel, could there be an exception? Sure, but I don't feel that that's connected to something
Yeah.
otherworldly per se. I don't
And I
know.
think it might, it might be a good time to remind our listeners or viewers that intuitive experiences always always feel neutral. I
They
can't
do.
think of, well, you might have an
They
emotional
honestly do.
reaction to it, but when the information drops into your awareness, when you first become aware of it, it is just data. It's just information.
Yeah.
You might as well be looking at a math equation. Again, like you might see, oh, my grandmother came to the bed and she said goodbye to me, and as you're reporting this, it feels very neutral, but then of course you find out she's passed away and it's a very sad moment. Or if you've ever, I'm sure a lot of people have gone like, huh, he's cheating on me, just like you just know it in this neutral sense, or she's lying to me, like when you just know something, it's
It's a
very
knowing.
neutral. And again, then you can have an emotional reaction to it that might be good, bad, or different. But, people are often afraid of tapping into their own intuition or wanting to dream because they're afraid they'll get information that will, be very upsetting for them, or information
Yeah.
that will be, I don't know, open some sort of gateway that then they can't close.
The old.
Yeah, but we can't be strangers to our own minds, we can't, and we shouldn't be. Are certainly not strangers to our own spirit and our higher mind and what it wants to connect with us, to communicate with us.
Can I bring up one more?
Yeah.
Astral projection. That's a thing for some people.
Yeah, I haven't experienced it myself, so I have really no opinion other than fascination about it. I don't feel like it's impossible, but I don't think I've ever even spoken to anybody who's
My mother had an astral, so this has got to go back. It's probably in late 70s. And she said she went out of her body through her window. She told me the whole thing. And, back then moms weren't really chit-chatty,
right.
so the fact she was telling me this. She went out of her body while her body stayed in bed, and there was a cord. Now, it's not
No,
like any of this was put in her mind because this wasn't a
sure.
thing back then.
Yeah, right, right.
And she said there was a cord. She probably told me it was silver or gold. I could be making that up though. And she floated out the window and she floated down our lawn into the weeping willow tree. And I literally forget everything else she
Mm,
said. And then she came back in her body. It happened to her more than once. It was reoccurring.
mm,
And I think she shut it down. So
yeah.
she did have that. Some people say they can astral project and even do it before they go to sleep. So it's almost like a remote view, but they astral
Mm.
project and they target locations and go. I actually signed up for a class in that, paid for it, and never did it just because whatever. I've done that on a few things.
Life gets in the way.
Yeah, it got in the way. So a lot of people do go out of their
Mm.
body. They'll often they talk about that thread.
Yeah,
Some people do
that
not.
I've heard, right.
And they see things, but I believe what they see, if I'm not mistaken from what I've heard and my clients, is they're also neutral, no matter what
Yeah,
they're seeing. Because you could dream that you're going out of your body and it's literally just a dream.
right.
So where the difference is, I don't know because it's not my wheelhouse.
I think it's that quality. I think we have to know ourselves, and which again brings me to this, maybe it's incumbent on us, maybe we have a moral imperative, I'm not sure, but we need to know ourselves, and we empower ourselves when we do. So instead of me saying, Carla, I dreamed about a bear, what does that mean?
Oh, yeah, that's
It's my job to figure out what that means to me. What am I reacting to? What is it bringing up a fear? Is it bringing up a sense of power? Is it bringing up simply the knowledge that I should take the bird seed down because the bears are, out eating and they're going to come and eat all the suet and climb over the fence and bend it and scare the dog. It's up to us to interpret. And there are lots of, dream dictionaries and lots of stuff online.
Yeah.
If you dream about a fox, if you dream
Yeah.
about water, if you dream about, by all means, check it
Symbolism.
out. But I think you have to check with yourself, and in fact, I would recommend doing that first before looking up what other those things may be, because it's such a subjective experience. There may be some commonalities universally around dreams about water and what they mean, but it's your information from you, for you, about you, therefore it's yours to interpret. And and if we become familiar, I'm not the kind of person that keeps a dream journal because I don't have a lot of dreams that I remember. But if you're the kind of person who does, those, if there are recurring themes or there are patterns in it, it's up to you to interpret what that is telling you about your life, either the good things, the things that need development, or things that need healing, or deeper introspection. Um, so hang on to that, power yourself.
Okay, what about this? Greed. What about if someone's new to this, insecure? Because I agree. Like, I'm going to go back for a second. Those dream books, people have made tons of money. They put all this work into this. There was a dream book back when we started that was like this thick.
Yes.
And I was like, I never personally, for me, was like, okay, if I dream, since I don't dream about an apple, it means this. It didn't work for me. But there's an argument here that if, in fact, you're new to intuition and new to all this and you don't feel secure, you can program yourself to say, okay, if I dream about X, Y, and
That's
Z, but then your brain can also do it. So there's a gray area there.
Mhm.
But if I dream about this, then let me know, or let me use these as a symbol and a sign. And it might be, for some people, not a bad launch point.
I would agree. Yeah.
I just thought of that
Again, that's,
now.
if we develop this communication between our higher minds, our intuition, and ourselves, like I often do with the spirit people. If you show me balloons, I know we're talking about a
Well,
children's
I do
birthday.
too. I do too. I have
If
my
you show
symbols.
if you show me a bouquet of flowers in your hand, we're talking about a wedding anniversary. So those are things that I have offered to the
Yep,
spirit people.
me
Like,
too.
just show me this. Don't give me the date. Don't show me the wedding rings and the invitation. Just show me that. It's a nice shorthand way of doing it. So am I communicating with my own mind's receptors for spirit people, or am I literally communicating with a body of governors in the spirit world that says, okay, if you're working with Priscilla and you're talking about a wedding anniversary, here's your code sheet.
Yeah.
Work off of this. Don't
make
deviate.
a code sheet. I like that. Because actually we do that. I know when I'm being shown a certain thing in a reading, I know it means this, or this.
Right.
I have developed symbols
Right.
over time
But they're for me to interpret.
for me. Yeah.
And there are times when I felt frustrated that I'm getting symbols, I don't know what they mean. So I have said, okay, if you want to show me a wedding anniversary as opposed to a death anniversary,
Mhm.
show me a bouquet of flowers. I'm telling you guys to show me that, or I'm asking you guys to show me that. So again, being more active in the language, in the conversation, rather than passive. Let me wait and see what happens and then interpret. So to your point, I would agree. A dream dictionary can give you a framework, but let it just be a framework to build
An
on.
outline, and do it if you want to do it in your dreams and you are a dreamer, because if you feel that's your wheelhouse,
Mhm.
then do that.
Yeah.
Since it's not ours, we would do it the other way. But from a dream standpoint, try it. And if it doesn't work, then go our way.
And when I am interpreting something psychically, or meaning a message from a spirit person, there are two things that are happening. The first is the symbol comes in, and then the emotion follows it. And the symbol is the evidence or the representation of what I'm supposed to talk about. And the emotion that then I feel, or they give me to feel, or I tune into you and I feel, is the message with that. So if I see, if let's say I'm talking to a spirit person and they hand me a bouquet of flowers, and I know I'm going to talk about, and this happens pretty quickly, I know I'm going to talk about a wedding anniversary, and then they also show me like a mass card, I'm going to say, this person died right around your wedding anniversary, or if they give me a lot of joy, oh, right around now is your present day wedding anniversary, even if the person's in the spirit world. So when you're dreaming or you're writing down your dreams, don't just note what the elements are in the dream, but note what your specific emotions are, like what happens next. I'm dreaming about that apple. All right. What's next? Like, what is that symbolizing? So for me, even as you said that, the first thing I thought of was Snow White. And I thought of like taking a bite and passing out and poison. So not that every time I'm biting an apple, I'm going to think of poison, but that's what happened to me that at the moment you said that. And I'm so used to letting, whenever somebody gives me a noun, for example, letting it unfold, like what's happening else, what is this triggering in me? And so when you're reviewing your own dreams, before you look at the dream dictionary, um, write down what some of those elements are and wait a beat. Just how do I feel about that? What is that bringing up a memory? Is that making me think of something? Is that leading me to want to, even if it's completely off in another direction? Like, why am I thinking about in the animated movie of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs? Well, who knows? Where would that take me? So symbols tend to unfold, and dreams are nothing if not symbolic. Whether they're symbolic of, the TV show you watched and the stress you have to process, and we're getting rid of this, or the symbol of, a visitation is a symbol of your loved one's recognition that you're lonely and sad, and I'm here to love you and hug on you and give you lots of affection and reassurance that I'm okay. Or is it symbolic of a prediction or an insight? Yeah, dreams.
Mhm. One last thing to say. That I think that's perfect. And if you're insecure, I'll go back to, you can open the book and say, oh, an apple means this. Have I ever had that experience? And then write, do any of yours match those? I don't need, it doesn't, you can program yourself and have it work, but then it could be your left brain putting that in.
Yeah.
See, whichever one is more comforting to you, because you might get insecure. If I know when people are starting out, if they're not us and
Right.
do this all the time, there's an insecurity. And did I make that up? And am I
Yeah.
imagining this? Is this bias confirmation?
Right.
So see which one. We like to offer options. See which one works for you.
Yes. And I'll tell you something I wish I had never done. And with the wisdom of the years of being a psychic and a medium, I wish I had never learned what tarot cards were supposed to mean, because it is a handicap. Because they're a divination tool, I use them as a divination tool. So if I pull the Three of Swords, which is known to represent heartbreak, the interrelationships, maybe healing can begin now after a heartbreak. That is such an automatic fill in the blank for me that it can take me out of my psychic interpretation of what's going on. So take care with some of those references, use them as a jumping off point, but know that your symbol library is for you and for you alone. And you would do yourself, I promise you, a disservice if you only rely on that and not without, like what Carla said, does this apply to me also? So this apple in the Dream Dictionary book means going back to school. Is that relevant to me in any way whatsoever now in my dream? It might be. Or it might be like, no, it's really making me feel more like, there's a bad apple and it could ruin the whole bunch. So I need to look at a toxic person in a group. So let it, at least it can inform you for what it is not.
What does an apple actually mean for you in the reading? Because it's a symbol for me. What's your symbol?
I don't think I have a symbol for an apple.
Oh, I thought maybe the Snow White thing. Mine is always a teacher or a birth, death anniversary, September, the first week of October, an apple, just picking season. One time I got it and I was like, I told somebody and they said, well, no, but he passed by choking on an apple. I was like, okay, then we'll take that. Because the guy kept showing me an apple. But that's when, we create our matches. And for me, every time I see an apple, it's that. I thought maybe you had that poison.
No, I'm just like, so let me just spool this out a moment, because when you said that, and this is how like the psychic mind generally works, usually a little faster than this. But when Carla had mentioned if I was doing a reading and I saw an apple, and what immediately came to mind was the Snow White, the Disney film with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and the evil stepmother. I was going to say the evil stepmother giving it to this naive Snow White, and she's biting it and she's poisoned. So for me, in that moment, it represented a deception.
Yeah, this is now going to be my thing. I'm going to see apples and someone was poisoned. I know this is planted in my head.
And it could be simply that somebody who's listening at the moment, listening to our podcast, like that's a relevant interpretation for you right now. So, I'm not going to say that that's about you because it all,
No, it's right. No,
it
there's no
was
right
all
or
just
wrong
came up, right?
interpretation. You have your own, and you should build that.
Yeah.
And this is going to sound funny, but in a way, though we've talked about this, don't overthink your dreams.
Yeah,
Be
right.
the observer, the omniscient observer
Yeah.
to your dreams.
Yeah, it's called dream analysis, but don't analyze it
Yeah,
too much.
really, honestly, just don't
Really.
do it.
Like,
Do all these types.
feel into it and respond to it, have a kind of emotional conversation with it, and push back against it a little bit. And I'm sure you do this with symbols and readings as well. So this is a language that we speak every day, without having to be asleep. And with that Snow White example, I pushed back, like, why am I seeing this cell? And then I get the feeling like, what, meaning the animation cell, that's what I meant. And okay, so what about the moment she's biting the apple? Oh, it isn't about Snow White, it's about the evil stepmother giving it to her. So, by pushing back against it or sitting with it even and saying and to myself and watching or experiencing the symbol unfold is what brings me to the aha moment about that's what this means.
That takes some experience, though. People starting out cannot do that. That's like
Well, that's why I'm
third and
suggesting
fourth
you try.
grade, not kindergarten.
That's why I'm suggesting you try or factor that in instead of being quick to go to a reference guide and check it off. This means this means this.
Doesn't,
This.
one size doesn't fit all.
Be a
And
little,
it can be a foundation.
massage it a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
does that feel right for me? Does that apple mean, does it mean I'm going back to school? I feel more like, and especially other elements in the dream before it or after it or the setting that is in, maybe it's we can stick with this example, a new boyfriend coming into the family, for example, or a new partner coming into the family. And that sort of validates a sense that that gives me the creep. So that person doesn't feel too trustworthy. That could be more, like even with the tarot card reading, the card you're reading is influenced by the cards around it as well, or it helps to build the story. So it's a big picture, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. You don't have to have it all down, but the more you challenge yourself or ask yourself or remain curious about what could this mean for me and how do I feel about it, what's my emotional response to it, the sooner you'll be able to do that more quickly and have that sort of symbol library for yourself.
True.
True.
I think we veered away from dreams.
I think we have
a little bit.
we did get into dream interpretation
did,
despite
we
our
did.
best efforts here.
But for those that don't dream, this will be helpful.
For those that daydream or want to start, massaging your intuition a little bit, give that a try. And you can listen to us on Spotify and on Buzzsprout. You can watch us on YouTube. You can contact us on Instagram and through Buzzsprout as well on our fan mail, which we cannot answer, but we can certainly address on subsequent podcasts. And you can email us at info@etherealmaterialpodcast.com or etherealmaterialpod@gmail.com. Did I miss anything?
TikTok.
TikTok. I always forget that one. So thank you for listening. It's always a pleasure to, dissect whatever is on our table and talk about the gap between the seen and the unseen.
That's right.
So thanks for listening, you guys. We'd love to hear your stories. Please let us know about your dreams, how you interpret your dreams.
Experiences you've had.
Sure. Yeah, we'd love to hear it. And in the meantime,
keep believing,
keep questioning,
and keep in touch.
See you later.